What is going on, everybody? In this video, I'm going to start my schedule predictions for the 2025 college football season. And today, we are going to predict the 2025 college football schedule for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This Notre Dame team is a team that I am very high on heading into next season. I expect them to be in the playoffs once again and probably a national title contender. They do lose some good leaders in Xavier Watts and Benjamin Morrison on defense. They also lose Riley Liddard at quarterback on offense. They lose one of the best tight ends in college football last season in Mitchell Evans. So they do lose some very good pieces, but they are still a stacked football team. And Marcus Freeman is a great head coach, and I think they have some great guys coming up. Defensively, they return key guys in the secondary, young guys like Christian Gray and Leonard Moore. And offensively, I think they're going to have an even better receiving core. They add a guy like Malachi Fields from Virginia, who was a very good receiver last season. Malachi Fields had 1,600 yards and 10 touchdown catches for the last two seasons with that Virginia team. They also returned two pretty solid receivers in Jordan Faison and Jaden Grayhouse, and they add a very solid receiver from Wisconsin and Will Pauling. Will Pauling has had over 1,200 receiving yards the last two seasons for Wisconsin and 9 touchdown catches. So I truly believe that this Notre Dame receiving core is going to be improved next season. But I think their biggest X factor heading into next season is their running back room. I do think they have the best returning running back room in the country with a guy like Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. And Jeremiah Love is a potential Heisman finalist. The offensive line should be really good again, and I think this team is going to be a great team. The quarterback position is a bit of a question mark, but I think they are going to be just fine there. Steve Angeli was the backup to Riley Liddard last season. He entered the portal. He was the guy that I was pretty high on. I was expecting him to be the starter. And he showed some great flashes last season. But he must have gotten beat out, and I don't think that discredits that quarterback room. A guy like CJ Carr could have a breakout season at quarterback. So yeah, I really like this Notre Dame roster, but without further ado, let's get into predicting their schedule. They opened the season with a tough road test at Miami. This will be played on a Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's going to be a very interesting Week 1 game. I know Miami has this game at home, but I really trust Notre Dame more in this game. I still have question marks with this Miami team. They lose all of their top receivers from last season. They lose a very good quarterback in Cam Ward. They lose an NFL running back in Damian Martinez. And defensively, they had a pretty average defense, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. I know they are very talented, one of the most talented rosters in the country, but they really have to reload, and I don't see Carson Beck being able to take advantage of that Notre Dame defense. Carson Beck was a solid transfer addition, but I don't think he's anywhere near as good as Cam Ward is. Miami adds some solid pieces out of the portal in Zachariah Poyser. They also add Xavier Lucas and Charles Brantley. I do think they will have a better secondary, but in Week 1, I am taking Notre Dame. The only place I'd say Miami might have the advantage in this game is the quarterback position. Carson Beck has a lot more experience. While if CJ Carr is the starter for Notre Dame, CJ Carr is not going to have any experience. But all around, I think Notre Dame's going to be the better defensive team, the better team at the line of scrimmage, and I think the run game gets it done. So give me Notre Dame to get this win even on the road. I don't think Miami is going to beat Notre Dame in Week 1. The schedule will then get even tougher. They have a bye week and then they play Texas A&M at home. This is a Texas A&M team that is near the top of the SEC and return in production. They are a very talented team with a good year 2 head coach in Mike Elko. I think Texas A&M has the potential to be a breakout team next season and compete for a playoff spot. Obviously, it's not going to be easy. There's some other SEC teams that could do that as well. But I really do like this Texas A&M team. They return a quarterback in Marcel Reed who is young and has big potential. And they return a very good backfield with Le'Veon Moss and also Reuben Owens. They picked up one of the best players in the transfer portal in Casey Concepcion. This is a guy that was one of the best players in college football 2 years ago as a freshman. He had over 1,000 all-purpose yards. They returned Terry Bussey at wide receiver, and Mario Craver is a huge factor to that receiving room. They should have an even better receiver room next season. The defense is in good hands with good returning talent, and additions like Deion Hayes and TJ Searcy. I think Texas A&M will be an all-around good team and possibly a playoff contender. But Notre Dame having this game off of a bye week and at home makes me confident that they will win this game. I think they'll have the advantage at the line of scrimmage, and I think they'll have a good enough rushing game. So give me Notre Dame to beat probably another top 20 team, and I have them moving to 2-0. They then play Purdue at home, and I really don't know what to think about this Purdue team. Obviously, I have to think they're going to be pretty bad again. They went 2-10 last season, and there's no way they're going to be as bad as they were last season. But even if they take this big step forward, that will still probably be considered bad because they were an atrocious team last season. And this is a team that has completely revamped their roster. They're going to have a starter at basically every position with new head coach Barry Odom. I do think there could be a couple of wins on the schedule for Purdue that they maybe sneak out. Barry Odom is a great head coach and a huge hire for that Purdue team, but they just do not have this great roster. So really nothing much to say about this game. I don't think Purdue stands a chance on the road against Notre Dame. Give me Notre Dame to move to 3-0. Here's where things get a little bit tricky in my opinion. Notre Dame will then go on the road to play an Arkansas team that I think is going to be solid next season. Do I think Arkansas is a better team than Notre Dame? Absolutely not. But I think this is the type of game Notre Dame could slip up in. They are coming off of two big wins against Miami and Texas A&M, and then they kind of had that quiet game against Purdue. The following week, they play at Arkansas, a team that is not that bad. And I think this is the type of game where Taylor Green, a good dual threat quarterback, could possibly take advantage of that Notre Dame defense. And I'm not saying Notre Dame has a bad defense or anything like that. But we have seen it before with dual threat quarterbacks. They can really lead their teams to upsets. And I do think Arkansas has one of the better returning quarterbacks in the SEC. They have some good playmakers with Omega Blake coming in, Ismail Sese, some other great playmakers. And I think Arkansas might be able to battle with Notre Dame at the line of scrimmage. I just think this is going to be an upset game. I could easily have Notre Dame going 12-0, but there has to be somewhere where they slip up. It's hard to go 12-0 in today's college football. And playing at Arkansas early in the season is no easy test for Notre Dame. I think Taylor Green will have a big game, and I think Arkansas upsets Notre Dame. So I have Notre Dame moving to 3-1. Notre Dame will then host Boise State at home, and I don't think this game will be close. Notre Dame will be looking to bounce back, and Notre Dame is just a way more talented team than Boise State. Boise State is top in the country in return in production, but they lose one of their top players in Ashton Jeanty, one of the best players in the country last season. Tyra Gaines is a potential breakout running back, and Malik Sherrod was a good pickup in the transfer portal, but it's still going to be hard to replace the production of Ashton Jeanty. And I just think Notre Dame will be too much for this Boise State team. I don't see Notre Dame getting upset in this game. So give me Notre Dame to beat Boise State and move to 4-1. Notre Dame will then host NC State at home. And although I am liking CJ Bailey at quarterback for NC State, I think he's going to take a big step forward. I still don't think they have a roster to compete with the talent of Notre Dame. Notre Dame already dropped a game that they probably shouldn't have. And I think they'll have everything figured out at this point. They'll be playing their best football. And I think at home, this is going to be too big of a test for NC State. They lose a bunch of defensive production. They lost their top playmaker in KC Concepcion as well, so that was a tough loss. I am expecting NC State to be a bowl team or better, but I do think Notre Dame will destroy NC State at home. So give me Notre Dame to win this game and move to 5-1. Here's a game that could potentially be tricky. Notre Dame will host USC at home. USC is a team that really took a step forward defensively last season, and they have been adding some huge pieces in the portal as well. They recently added some huge playmakers on defense. Bishop Fitzgerald was one of the better safeties in the ACC last season. They picked him up. They also picked up Kennedy Urlacher, who made some great plays for Notre Dame last season. He did get lost in a loaded safety room, but he is talented. And they also picked up linebacker Tamir Robinson from Penn State, a guy that was expected to take a huge step forward and be a starter for Penn State this season. So they are building a much better foundation on defense, and they returned some good playmakers on offense. They recently added one of Boise State's top receivers from last season. They returned Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, two of their top receivers from last season. They have two very good backs in Eli Sanders and Waymon Jordan, and Jedemiah is a quarterback that USC can probably trust. So all around, I think they have a solid roster. I think they'll be a bit better than they were last season. And right now, their recruiting is at a high level. They've been recruiting super well. But again, USC has struggled to beat Notre Dame in recent memory. Notre Dame is just in a much better place, so I can't pick USC to win this game. I do have some optimism with USC, but I'm taking Notre Dame to beat USC and move to 6-1. Notre Dame then has a bye week, and then they will play Boston College on the road. Even though this is a road game, following a bye week, Notre Dame should be able to handle this game pretty well. Boston College is a team I just don't have great optimism for. I wouldn't be surprised if they took a step back and missed a bowl game. They lose Thomas Castellanos, and they really did nothing in the portal. They have one of the worst ACC transfer portal classes, and I think teams around them are getting better. They do return some good playmakers like Lewis Bond on offense. Grayson James is a guy that should be okay at quarterback, but I still have questions with this team. The defense should be pretty mid, and I'm expecting Notre Dame to win this game no problem, so give me Notre Dame in this game, and I have them moving to 7-1. Navy is absolutely a team that could take a step forward and be a contender in the playoffs, but they do not stand a chance against Notre Dame. We saw what Notre Dame did to other Group of 5 teams last season beside Northern Illinois. We don't talk about that. But Notre Dame absolutely destroyed Army and Navy, and I expect the same story next season. These teams cannot compete with Notre Dame. But if we are talking about Navy, I do think they're going to be very good next season. They return one of the better quarterbacks in the Group of 5 in Blake Horvath. They return a lot of production, and they won 10 games last season, ended their season by beating Army and Oklahoma. I think this is a team that could absolutely be the G5 representative in the playoffs. But there's definitely a gap with Group of 5 teams and good Power 4 teams like Notre Dame. Give me Notre Dame to win this game and move to 8-1. Notre Dame will then play Pitt on the road. This could be a potential trap game. Maybe the lack of competition catches up to Notre Dame. They haven't really played a tough test in a while. And Pitt is a team that does return some good talent and a lot of production. They completely fell apart at the end of last season, and I do think they are going to be wanting to bounce back. And they returned their top guys in Eli Holsting at quarterback, Desmond Reed at running back. They also returned Kitty Johnson at wide receiver. I do think this is going to be a pretty solid team. They won't be anything crazy. And I don't think they'll beat Notre Dame either. Give me Notre Dame to win this game on the road. I don't see them slipping up to a team like Pitt on the road, so give me Notre Dame in this game. I have them moving to 9-1. The next opponent for Notre Dame is Syracuse. Syracuse is a team that went 10-3 last season, but I do think they are going to take a massive step back next season if you look at who they lost. They lost multiple of their top weapons. They lost a Rondo Gadsden, and they lost both Trevor Penna and Zeke Haynes, two of their top wideouts. They lost their top running back as well, and they lost a guy who led the country in passing yards in Kyle McCord. They did pick up Stephen Jelly out of the portal. I think that was a huge pickup. So maybe they compete for a bowl game with a guy like Stephen Jelly. I think he could get the job done. But I really think he doesn't have a great team around him, and Syracuse has a much more difficult schedule next season. I think Syracuse is getting a bit too much hype. I think they're overrated. Like I said, they lose a lot of production. They lost one of their top defensive players in Fidel Diggs. I think they take a step back. I think Notre Dame will beat the brakes off of them. Give me Notre Dame to win this game and move to 10-1. And the following week, I expect no different story. Notre Dame plays on the road at Stanford. But Stanford hasn't been able to compete with Notre Dame in a very long time. I honestly think Stanford does have potential, and they could be a little bit underrated next season with the young talent that they have coming back. Micah Ford is a running back who should be really good. Elijah Brown is a young 4-star quarterback coming up, and they return a lot of production on defense. They are nearly top of the ACC in return in production. And they hired a former NFL veteran to be the head coach. So maybe they find a way to get some wins, but they really don't have a talented roster, and they won't be able to compete with a team like Notre Dame. So give me Notre Dame to win this game and finish the season 11-1. Well, there you have it. That's going to do it for today's video. I think Notre Dame will be a very good team once again, and I do have them at 11-1. You guys let me know down in the comments below which team you would like to see next. Now let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you'll love this channel because we upload a ton of college football content. And we basically cover everything on this channel, so definitely consider subscribing and also consider checking out my socials down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.